My name is Amanda Mitchell, and at 28, I never expected to see my little sister Rachel trending on social media, especially not on her wedding day, and definitely not because her new husband Gregory slapped her across the face. I stared at my phone in horror, the reception footage playing on repeat as thousands of strangers commented. The sister who hadn't even invited me to her wedding was now inadvertently sharing her most humiliating moment with the world. Our parents had always favored Rachel, but they couldn't protect her now. Before I tell you how I ended up saving my sister from an abusive marriage she didn't want me to interfere with, drop a comment letting me know where you're watching from and subscribe. If you want more real family stories like Mina. Rachel and I grew up in a suburban Connecticut neighborhood where our matching bicycles left parallel tracks down the sidewalk. 3 years apart in age, we were inseparable during those early years. I remember braiding her hair before school, standing up to playground bullies, who teased her about her braces, and teaching her how to properly apply mascara without clumps. At night, we'd sneak into each other's rooms after bedtime, sharing secrets and dreams by flashlight. I promised to always protect her, and she promised to always be my best friend. Everything changed when I turned 14 and Rachel was 11. Our parents, Michael and Karen Mitchell, started noticing Rachel's artistic talents. She had always been gifted with a paintbrush, creating watercolors that seemed beyond her years. They immediately enrolled her in private art lessons, hanging her creations all over the living room, and suddenly the dynamic shifted. While they celebrated her every accomplishment, my solid B-plus report cards earned nothing more than a distracted good job between their effusive praise of Rachel's latest masterpiece. Rachel's personality made her the perfect candidate for their attention. She was naturally gentle, eager to please, and desperately craved validation. She would spend hours perfecting a painting, not because she enjoyed it, but because she knew the finished product would earn our parents' approval. Meanwhile, I developed a different approach to family life. I became independent, outspoken, and protective of my own boundaries, qualities my parents viewed as rebellious and difficult. The first major fracture in our relationship happened during my junior year of high school. Rachel, then 14, had started dating a boy named Ethan from her art class. Our parents disapproved simply because they thought dating would distract from her artistic development. One night at dinner, they forbade her from seeing him again. Rachel sat silently, eyes downcast, but I saw tears threatening to spill. "That's completely unfair," I argued. "Rachel gets straight A's and spends every weekend at art workshops. She should be allowed to have a social life, too." My father's face reddened. "This isn't about you, Amanda. Rachel has real talent that needs nurturing. She doesn't need distractions. She's a teenager, not a project," I countered, watching Rachel shrink further into herself. That night, my car privileges were revoked for undermining parental authority. When I passed Rachel's room later, I heard her on the phone telling Ethan they couldn't see each other anymore. When I knocked on her door to talk, she wouldn't open it. "I'm fine," she insisted through the wood. "You shouldn't have said anything. Now everyone's upset." That became our pattern. Anytime I defended her, Rachel would ultimately side with our parents, leaving me isolated in my supposed rebellion. By the time I left for college, the relief was palpable. Campus life gave me space to breathe, to discover who I was beyond the family dynamics that had stifled me. I made genuine friends who valued my directness, rather than viewing it as a character flaw. Rachel, meanwhile, followed our parents' carefully laid path. She chose a prestigious art school only 40 minutes from our childhood home. When she graduated, she accepted a graphic design position at a firm our father's golf buddy owned. Her apartment was in the same town as our parents, and she dutifully joined them for Sunday dinners each week. Her independence was an illusion, a slightly longer leash, but a leash nonetheless. Over those years, our communication dwindled to holiday gatherings and occasional text messages. I'd try to maintain our connection, sending her articles about emerging artists or inviting her to visit me in Boston, where I'd settled into a marketing executive position. Her responses were always polite but distant. "Thanks for thinking of me," or "Sounds fun, but I'm swamped with work right now." Rain check. After several years of these gentle rejections, my attempts became less frequent. The childhood bond we once shared felt like a faded photograph. You could still make out the image, but the colors had washed away with time. Then 2 years ago, Gregory entered Rachel's life. She mentioned him casually in a text after one of my check-ins. "Been seeing someone new. His name is Gregory. He works in finance." I was surprised but hopeful that this relationship might somehow bring us closer. Perhaps double dates or holiday gatherings would give us neutral ground to reconnect. I couldn't have been more wrong. My first encounter with Gregory Richards came during Thanksgiving dinner at our parents' house. I arrived early to help with preparations while Rachel texted that she and Gregory would be fashionably late because he had an important client call. When they finally arrived, my sister looked different. Designer clothes, professionally highlighted, hair and careful makeup that seemed to mask rather than enhance her natural features. Gregory strode into the dining room with the confidence of someone who already considered himself family. Tall, with carefully styled dark hair and an expensive watch that he checked frequently, he immediately dominated the conversation. "Rachel tells me you work in marketing," he said when we were finally introduced. "Tough business. My firm manages portfolios for several agencies that went under last quarter." His handshake was firm to the point of discomfort, his smile not reaching his eyes. Throughout dinner, I noticed how Gregory subtly controlled Rachel's behavior. When she reached for a second dinner roll, his hand gently pressed against her wrist. "Carbs at night, babe. You were just saying yesterday how your clothes are feeling tight." Rachel immediately withdrew her hand, her cheeks flushing with embarrassment. When she began telling a story about a challenging client at work, Gregory interrupted. Rachel tends to exaggerate these situations. The client simply wanted revisions, which is standard in her field. My sister nodded in agreement, her original story abandoned. Most concerning was when Rachel's phone chimed with a text notification. Gregory casually picked it up from where it sat between them, read the message, and responded before setting it down again. Rachel didn't react as if this invasion of privacy was completely normal. My parents seemed oblivious to these dynamics, or perhaps willfully blind. They were clearly enchanted by Gregory's stories about his executive position, his membership at an exclusive golf club, and his investment portfolio. My father was particularly impressed when Gregory mentioned connections to board members at prestigious art galleries. "Rachel's work deserves to be seen in those circles," my mother gushed. "She's always been exceptionally talented." "With the right guidance, she could be," Gregory responded, patting Rachel's hand in a way that seemed more possessive than affectionate. "I've been helping her develop a more marketable style." After dinner, I managed to find Rachel alone in the kitchen as she prepared coffee. "Hey, got a minute to catch up?" I asked, keeping my tone casual. "It's been ages since we really talked." She smiled, but there was tension around her eyes. "Sure, what's up?" "I just wanted to check in. You seem different. Are you happy, Rach? With everything? With Gregory?" Her posture immediately stiffened. "What's that supposed to mean?" "Nothing specific. Just sister stuff. He seems to have very particular ideas about your life, your work." "Because he supports me," she interrupted, defensive edge sharpening her voice. "He has connections, Amanda. He knows people I need to know to advance my career. I understand that, but—" "No, you don't," she cut me off again. "You've always done your own thing, defied everyone's expectations. That works for you. I'm not like that." "Rachel, I'm not criticizing. I just noticed he seems to make a lot of decisions for you." Her voice dropped to a harsh whisper. "This is exactly why we don't talk anymore. You always think you know better. Are you jealous that I found someone successful who actually wants to build a future with me?" The accusation stung. "That's not fair. Isn't it? You show up twice a year, judge everyone's choices, then disappear back to your life. Gregory is with me every day, supporting me, helping me grow." Before I could respond, Gregory appeared in the doorway. "Everything okay in here? Coffee's taking a while." His tone was light, but his eyes moved calculatingly between us. "All good," Rachel replied, her demeanor instantly shifting to cheerful. "Just catching up with Amanda." Over the next 6 months, I made several attempts to reconnect with Rachel. I sent messages suggesting sister lunches, asked about her art projects, and even offered to help her set up a portfolio website. Her responses became increasingly delayed and brief. When I called on her birthday, Gregory answered her phone. "Rachel's actually busy with a project right now," he explained smoothly. "I'm helping her prepare work for a potential gallery showing. One of my clients is on the selection committee. Could I just wish her a happy birthday quickly?" I asked. Better not to break her concentration, creative flow and all that. "I'll pass along your message." Rachel never called back. I was browsing Instagram 3 months later when I saw Rachel's engagement announcement. The photo showed her hand with an ostentatious diamond ring, Gregory's arm wrapped possessively around her waist. My parents were tagged in the photo along with Gregory's family and several mutual friends. I wasn't tagged, nor had I received any personal notification. I sent a congratulatory text immediately. Just saw the news. Congratulations, Rachel. I'm so happy for you. Would love to catch up soon and hear all about the proposal. 3 days later, she responded with a simple thanks. Very excited. Planning is already crazy busy. As weeks passed, I saw social media updates about venue selections, flower arrangements, and dress fittings. My mother mentioned during a brief phone call that Rachel had chosen her bridesmaids, all friends from her art program, and Gregory's sister as maid of honor. When I asked if Rachel had reached out about my role in the wedding, my mother's pause was telling. I think she's concerned you might not approve of her choices. You two have grown in different directions. The invitation I kept expecting never arrived. A week before the wedding date, I received a text from Rachel. Just wanted to let you know the wedding is small and intimate. Gregory thinks it's best to keep it to people who've been consistently supportive of our relationship. I hope you understand. I sat staring at those words for a long time, the finality of our estrangement finally sinking in. My little sister, whom I had once protected from everything, didn't want me at the most important day of her life. And somehow this rejection was framed as my fault for not being consistently supportive of a relationship that raised every red flag I'd ever been warned about. The morning of Rachel's wedding, I woke up with a heaviness in my chest that made it difficult to breathe. Outside my apartment, Boston was alive, with Saturday energy joggers pounding the pavement, couples walking hand in hand to brunch, tourists consulting maps on street corners. Inside, I felt frozen in a moment of loss I couldn't properly articulate. I picked up my phone and composed a simple message. Thinking of you today. I hope it's everything you've dreamed of. Love you always. My thumb hovered over the send button for several minutes before I finally pressed it. The message marked as delivered, but no response came. In the weeks since learning I wasn't invited to the wedding, I had cycled through every imaginable emotion. Initially, there was raw hurt, the kind that makes your stomach clench and your throat tighten. This gave way to anger, a flaring indignation that my own sister would exclude me from such a significant life event. Both emotions eventually settled into a dull, persistent worry. The previous evening, I had called our parents' house, hoping for details about the rehearsal dinner. Oh, it was lovely, my mother gushed. The restaurant overlooked the harbor at sunset. Gregory's father gave the most touching speech about welcoming Rachel to their family. How did Rachel seem? I asked, trying to keep my tone neutral. A bit stressed with all the details, but that's normal bride behavior. Gregory has been wonderful, handling all the financial arrangements and making sure everything is perfect. Does she seem happy, Mom? Really happy. My mother's slight hesitation spoke volumes. Of course she's happy, Amanda. Why wouldn't she be? Gregory is giving her everything she could want. Except the freedom to invite her own sister, I replied, immediately regretting the bitterness in my voice. You know how it is between you two. You've always been critical of her choices. Gregory feels very protective of her emotional state right now. Gregory feels. What about what Rachel feels? My mother sighed. Please don't start this again. Tomorrow is her wedding day. Can't you just be happy for her without complications? I didn't have an answer that wouldn't escalate the conversation, so I wished her good night and hung up. Now, as the wedding hour approached, my phone remained silent. I made a deliberate decision to stay offline for the day, knowing social media would be flooded with images of the celebration I wasn't welcome to attend. Instead, I laced up my running shoes and headed for the Charles River, hoping physical exertion might burn away some of the emotional weight. 5 miles in, my phone buzzed with a text from my best friend Taylor. How are you holding up today? Taylor had been my rock through this entire situation, offering perspective when I couldn't find my own. I had met her during my first job after college, and she had quickly become the sister of choice that Rachel had once been by blood. Running until my legs hurt more than my heart, I replied. Want company? I can meet you in 20. An hour later, we sat on a bench, overlooking the water, sharing a paper bag of fresh bagels Taylor had brought. I keep wondering where things went so wrong between us, I admitted. We were so close as kids. Taylor considered this. From everything you've told me, it sounds like your parents created a competition neither of you signed up for. Rachel became the good daughter by complying, and you became the difficult one by questioning. But we're adults now. Shouldn't we have moved past that? Patterns set in childhood are the hardest to break, Taylor replied. And now she's with someone who reinforces those same patterns. Gregory rewards her compliance just like your parents did. I picked at my bagel. I should have tried harder to stay connected. Amanda, you sent her birthday gifts she never acknowledged. You invited her to visit countless times. You called and texted regularly for years. Taylor's voice was firm. At some point, relationships need reciprocity. You can't maintain a connection entirely on your own. I just can't shake this feeling that something's wrong. The Gregory I met isn't the person my parents see. He's controlling in ways they either don't notice or choose to ignore. Trust your instincts, Taylor said, but also respect Rachel's boundaries. She's made her choice clear, at least for now. That's the hardest part. Respecting her choice while fearing it's hurting her. We sat in silence for several minutes, watching rowing teams glide across the river's surface. Eventually, Taylor checked her watch. The ceremony would be over by now, she noted gently. I nodded, the reality settling over me like a physical weight. My little sister was married, and I hadn't been there to witness it. Hadn't hugged her or helped adjust her veil or told her she looked beautiful. Those moments were lost forever. I need to let go, I said finally. Not of Rachel, but of this idea that I can somehow fix our relationship by myself. It takes two people to build a bridge. And you'll be ready if she ever decides to start building from her side, Taylor assured me. That evening, I deliberately immersed myself in work reviewing marketing proposals for an upcoming campaign. I ordered takeout, opened a bottle of wine, and focused on the tangible tasks before me rather than the wedding reception happening 100 miles away. For the next several days, I maintained this deliberate focus on my own life. I took on extra projects at work, signed up for a photography workshop I'd been considering for months, and started planning a solo trip to Montreal for the long weekend. I was learning to build a life rich enough that the empty space where my sister should be didn't dominate the landscape. 3 weeks passed in this new normal. I had almost convinced myself I was finding peace with the situation when everything changed with one viral video. It was a Tuesday evening when my phone began buzzing repeatedly with notifications. At first, I ignored them, focused on finishing a client presentation, but when the buzzing continued, curiosity got the better of me. The first message I opened was from a college friend I hadn't spoken to in months. Oh my God, have you seen this? Isn't this your sister's wedding? Attached was a TikTok link. With growing unease, I tapped it open. The video started innocuously standard wedding reception footage showing a crowded dance floor, multicolored lights sweeping across laughing guests. The camera panned to show Rachel and Gregory near the wedding cake display. Rachel looked stunning in her fitted lace gown, her hair swept up in an elegant updo adorned with small flowers. But something was clearly wrong. Her expression was tense, her smile strained as she spoke to Gregory. The camera was too far away to capture their words, but their body language told a story of escalating tension. Rachel gestured toward a group of guests, apparently wanting to join them. Gregory's hand clamped around her wrist, holding her in place. As she tried to pull away, his expression darkened. Their exchange became more animated, Rachel's free hand moving expressively while Gregory's posture grew increasingly rigid. Then, it happened. Rachel said something that made Gregory's face contort with rage. His hand released her wrist, and in one swift, shocking motion he slapped her across the face with enough force to snap her head to the side. The video captured gasps from nearby guests. Rachel's hand flew to her cheek, her expression a mixture of shock, pain, and humiliation. Someone moved toward them, Gregory's best man pulling him away while Rachel stood, frozen tears streaming down her face, ruining her perfect makeup. The video ended there, but the comment section continued, scrolling with thousands of reactions. Did he seriously just hit his bride at their wedding? This is just what he does in public. Imagine behind closed doors. Who is filming instead of helping her? Anyone know if she's okay? This is terrifying. My hands shook so badly I nearly dropped my phone. I immediately tried calling Rachel straight to voicemail. I tried again with the same result. More messages were flooding in from mutual acquaintances who had seen the video, which was spreading rapidly across multiple platforms. Someone had helpfully added dramatic music and slow motion to the slap, turning my sister's trauma into entertainment. I called my parents next, my father answering on the fourth ring. Have you seen the video? I demanded without preamble. Amanda, now isn't a good time, he replied, his voice unusually subdued. Dad, there's footage of Gregory hitting Rachel at their wedding going viral online. This is serious. It's being blown out of proportion, he said defensively. They had a disagreement. Things got heated. They're working through it. Working through it, he slapped her in front of 100 people. That's assault. Your sister doesn't need you stirring up more drama right now. Gregory has apologized. They're on their honeymoon trying to move past this, and all these internet vultures are making it impossible. They went on their honeymoon. I couldn't keep the disbelief from my voice. After what happened, life goes on, Amanda. Marriage isn't always smooth sailing. They're committed to making it work. After hanging up, I sat in stunned silence for several minutes. Then I began methodically reaching out to anyone who might have been at the wedding. Most didn't respond, but Rachel's college roommate Natalie finally called back. I was afraid to say anything, she admitted. Gregory made everyone who saw the incident promise not to discuss it. Said it was a private matter, and talking about it would only hurt Rachel more. What exactly happened, Natalie? The video doesn't show everything. They were arguing because Rachel wanted to dance with her old art professor who came all the way from Chicago. Gregory kept saying no, that the professor had always been inappropriate with female students. Rachel said that was ridiculous, and she was going to say hello at least. That's when her voice trailed off. Did anyone help her? What happened after? Gregory's parents intervened, took them to a private room. When they came back, about 20 minutes later, Rachel had fixed her makeup and was smiling again, but it never reached her eyes. She announced they were cutting the cake early, then leaving for their hotel. Gregory made a joke about being eager to start their honeymoon, and everyone just pretended nothing had happened. Did you try to talk to her privately? I tried, but Gregory never left her side after that. When I texted her the next morning, she replied that everything was fine, just wedding stress and too much champagne. Said they were leaving for Bali that afternoon, and she'd call when they returned. After thanking Natalie, I spent the rest of the evening researching domestic violence patterns. Everything I read confirmed my worst fears. Public incidents like this were rarely isolated. If Gregory felt entitled to hit Rachel in front of witnesses what was happening when they were alone, I learned that the most dangerous time for abuse victims was when they attempted to leave the relationship. I read about how abusers isolated their victims from support networks, family, friends, anyone who might recognize the abuse or offer escape options. The pattern was painfully familiar. Gregory had systematically cut Rachel off from me because I had questioned his control. He'd cemented his relationship with our parents, knowing their approval was Rachel's emotional currency. He'd created a narrative where any criticism of their relationship was framed as jealousy or meddling. That night, I made a decision. Whether Rachel wanted my help or not, I couldn't stand by while she remained in danger. When she returned from her honeymoon, I would find a way to reach her, to offer support without judgment, to be the sister she needed, even if she didn't know it yet. I created a detailed safety plan, consulting with a domestic violence counselor who offered guidance without requiring names or details. I cleared the spare bedroom in my apartment, bought extra toiletries, and researched Massachusetts restraining order procedures. I wasn't going to force Rachel to leave Gregory. That decision had to be hers, but when and if she decided to, I would be completely prepared. 2 weeks later, social media revealed they had returned from Bali. It was time to put my plan into action. The suburban development where Rachel and Gregory had purchased their new home featured identical houses distinguished only by paint colors and landscaping choices. Their 2-story colonial, with black shutters and a carefully manicured lawn, projected an image of perfect domestic tranquility that felt jarringly incongruent with what I knew. I parked my car a block away and walked the remainder, rehearsing what I would say if given the chance. The doorbell echoed inside, followed by heavy footsteps. When the door swung open, Gregory's expression shifted from neutral to hostile in an instant. "Amanda," he said flatly. "What a surprise." "I'm here to see Rachel," I replied, keeping my voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through me. "She's resting." The trip was exhausting. He made no move to open the door wider. "I'll wait until she's available." His jaw tightened. "This isn't a good time. We're still settling in." From somewhere inside the house, I heard movement. "Gregory, who is it?" Rachel's voice called. "No one important," he called back, but I seized the opportunity. "It's me, Rachel. I need to talk to you." I raised my voice to ensure she could hear me. Gregory's face darkened as he stepped onto the porch, partially closing the door behind him. "You need to leave. Now. Not until I speak with my sister." "Your sister," he said, his voice dropping to a dangerous whisper, "doesn't need your toxic influence disrupting our marriage. You weren't invited to our wedding for a reason. The reason being, you didn't want anyone there who might object when you hit her." His expression confirmed I'd struck a nerve. That video was taken out of context. A private moment distorted for public consumption. There's no context that makes hitting your wife acceptable. The door opened wider and Rachel appeared. My heart clenched at the sight of her. She looked exhausted, smaller somehow, with dark circles visible beneath her makeup. When she saw me, her expression flickered with something relief-fear before settling into careful neutrality. "Amanda, what are you doing here?" she asked. "I needed to see you," I replied, my eyes searching hers for any signal, any clue to what she was really feeling. "To make sure you're okay." "Why wouldn't I be okay?" Her voice had an artificial brightness that didn't match her eyes. "We just got back from the most amazing honeymoon." Gregory's arms snaked around her waist fingers, visibly digging into her side. "Your sister was just leaving, weren't you, Amanda?" "Actually, I was hoping Rachel and I could grab coffee and catch up. Just the two of us." I directed this at Rachel, trying to establish a connection that excluded Gregory. "We have unpacking to do," Gregory answered for her. "Maybe another time." Rachel nodded mechanically. "We're really busy getting settled." I could feel the conversation slipping away from me, my chance to reach her evaporating. In desperation, I reached into my bag and palmed the small folded note I had prepared, containing my phone number and the simple message, "When you're ready to talk, I'm here. No judgments. Day or night." "I brought you something from that bakery you used to love," I said, pulling out a small paper bag containing muffins with the note tucked inside. "For breakfast tomorrow." Rachel reached for the bag, but Gregory intercepted it. "How thoughtful. We'll enjoy these later." As he took the bag, I locked eyes with Rachel, silently willing her to understand there was more than muffins inside. Something in her expression told me she did. "I should go," I said reluctantly. "But Rachel, please call me sometime. I've missed you." "She'll call when things settle down," Gregory answered already, closing the door. "Take care, Amanda." The door shut firmly, leaving me standing on the porch, wondering if I'd made things better or worse for Rachel. For 3 excruciating days, I heard nothing. I jumped at every phone call, checked my messages constantly, and slept with my phone on full volume beside my pillow. On the 4th day, at 1:43 p.m., an unknown number appeared on my screen. "Hello," I answered immediately. Amanda Rachel's voice was barely above a whisper. "It's me." Relief flooded through me. "Rachel, are you okay? Where are you?" "At the Shell station on Maple Street. Gregory thinks I'm getting medicine for a headache." Her words came in a rush. "I can't talk long. Do you need me to come get you?" "No," the panic in her voice was palpable. "No, he'd know something was wrong if I didn't come back soon. I found your note. Rachel, I'm worried about you." "The video." "It wasn't what it looked like," she interrupted. "He's under a lot of pressure at work. And I was being difficult about the reception schedule." The classic victim's defense of their abuser made my stomach clench, but I kept my voice neutral. "No amount of pressure justifies hitting you, Rachel. It was just that once. He's never done anything like that before." The tremor in her voice suggested otherwise. "You can talk to me, Rach. About anything. No judgments, remember?" She was silent for so long, I thought we'd lost connection. Finally, in a voice so small I could barely hear it, she said, "Things aren't great right now. He gets angry sometimes. But it's nothing I can't handle. You don't have to handle it alone." "I do, actually." Her tone sharpened. "This is my marriage, Amanda. I made vows. Vows that don't include letting someone hurt you." She sighed heavily. "I have to go. He's calling my phone." Wait, but she had already hung up. That brief conversation only intensified my worry. I called Taylor immediately, explaining what had happened. "She's not ready to leave him," Taylor said pragmatically. "But reaching out to you is a huge step. It means part of her knows the situation isn't right. I can't just sit around waiting for him to hurt her again. You might not have a choice. Pushing too hard could make her retreat further or cause Gregory to isolate her more completely." Taylor was right, but inaction felt intolerable. "I'm going back tomorrow when I know Gregory will be at work. Maybe without him there, she'll talk more openly." The next day, Taylor accompanied me for support. We parked down the street and waited until we saw Gregory's black BMW pull out of the driveway at 8:15 a.m. 30 minutes later, to ensure he wouldn't return for forgotten items, we approached the house. Rachel opened the door after the second knock, her expression cycling through surprise, alarm, and resignation. "You can't be here," she said, glancing nervously over her shoulder, as if Gregory might materialize behind her. "Please, just 5 minutes," I pleaded. "Taylor can wait in the car." Taylor squeezed my arm supportively. I'll keep watch for any returning vehicles, she said, understanding the unspoken plan. Rachel hesitated, then stepped aside. 5 minutes. Inside the house was immaculate, decorated in neutral tones with expensive-looking furniture that seemed more like a furniture showroom than a lived-in home. I noticed there were none of Rachel's paintings on display, a telling absence. She led me to the kitchen, keeping the island between us like a barrier. That's when I noticed a fading bruise near her collarbone, partially visible above her high-necked blouse. "Rachel," I said, softly nodding toward the bruise. Her hand flew up to cover it. I bumped into a door. Doors don't leave finger-shaped bruises. Her eyes filled with tears. "Why are you doing this? Coming here asking questions. You're making everything harder. Because I love you and I'm terrified for you." I kept my voice gentle. "This isn't normal, Rachel. It isn't love. You don't understand our relationship. I understand that you're hiding bruises and sneaking phone calls from gas stations. I understand that your husband hit you at your own wedding reception." Rachel's composure cracked. Tears spilled down her cheeks as she gripped the counter for support. "It's not always bad," she whispered. "Sometimes he's the sweet, charming man I fell in love with. And when things go wrong, he's always sorry afterward." "Until the next time," I said, fighting to keep accusation from my tone. "Rachel, the cycle only escalates. What happens when a slap becomes a punch, or worse? I can handle it. I just need to be better, not provoke him." "This is not your fault," I interrupted firmly. "Nothing you do or don't do justifies abuse." For a moment, she seemed to really hear me. Her shoulders slumped as the weight of her reality pressed down. "What am I supposed to do? Leave go where? Do what? My job is at his friend's company. My car is in his name. Even Mom and Dad think I should try harder to make my marriage work." "You can come stay with me," I offered immediately. "Today, right now. Pack a bag. We'll figure out the rest together." She shook her head. "I can't just leave. He would be furious." The sound of a car door slamming outside froze us both. Rachel's face drained of color. "It's him. You have to go. Now." "Rachel." "Please, Amanda," she begged, panic rising in her voice. "If he finds you here, it will be so much worse for me later." The urgency in her eyes told me everything I needed to know about what worse might mean. I pulled a business card from my pocket, hastily scribbling my personal cell number and address on the back. "Take this. Hide it where he won't find it. Day or night if you need help, I'll come. No questions asked." She nodded quickly, tucking the card into her bra as footsteps approached the front door. I slipped out the back just as I heard the front door open, circling around the side of the house where Taylor was frantically waving me toward the car. As we drove away, I caught a glimpse of Gregory entering the kitchen through the window. Rachel stood exactly where I'd left her, her posture stiff with tension. "He came home early," I told Taylor, my heart still racing. Something's not right. Why would he suddenly return in the middle of a workday? Maybe he forgot something. Or maybe he's checking up on her. The thought made me sick. What if he has cameras in the house? What if he saw me there? Taylor reached across to squeeze my hand. "Don't catastrophize. She knows you're there for her now. That's what matters." I nodded, trying to believe her. But as we drove back to Boston, I couldn't shake the feeling that my intervention had just made Rachel's situation more dangerous, not less. 2 weeks passed, with no word from Rachel. I called daily, leaving casual voicemails about harmless topics, a new restaurant I'd tried, a movie I'd seen, never mentioning Gregory or our conversation. I texted photos of a stray cat that had adopted me, silly memes, anything to maintain contact without raising alarms if Gregory was monitoring her communications. Each message ended with some variation of "thinking of you" or "miss you" code for "I'm still here when you need me." Every night I placed my phone on my nightstand and prayed it wouldn't ring because a middle-of-the-night call could only mean emergency. Every morning I checked it immediately, torn between relief that she hadn't needed urgent help and disappointment that she hadn't reached out at all. Then, at 2:17 a.m. on a Wednesday, my phone's shrill ring jolted me from sleep. Amanda Rachel's voice was barely recognizable through her sobbing. "I need help." I was instantly alert. "Where are you? Are you safe?" "I'm at Mrs. Callahan's house next door. He found the phone. The one I hid to call you." Her words came between gasps for air. "He went crazy, Amanda. Really crazy." "Are you hurt? Do you need an ambulance?" "No ambulance," she pleaded. "Just you. Please come get me." I'm on my way, I promised, already pulling on clothes. Stay where you are. I'll be there as fast as I can. The 90-minute drive took me 70 minutes. The entire time, my mind raced with worst-case scenarios. I called Rachel twice more during the drive, but Mrs. Callahan answered both times, assuring me that Rachel was physically okay, but too distraught to talk. When I finally pulled up to the elderly neighbor's house, the porch light flickered on immediately. Mrs. Callahan, a tiny woman in a floral robe, opened the door before I could even knock. "She's in the living room," she whispered. "Poor thing's been through hell tonight." Rachel sat huddled on a floral couch, arms wrapped tightly around herself. When she looked up, I gasped involuntarily. Her right eye was swollen, a purple bruise blooming across her cheekbone. Her lip was split, and angry red marks circled her neck. "Oh, Rachel," I breathed, rushing to her side. "Don't say you told me so," she whispered, her voice raspy from crying, or worse, from whatever had caused those marks on her throat. "Never," I promised, carefully embracing her. "I'm just glad you called me." Mrs. Callahan brought us tea, explaining how she'd heard the commotion next door, the shouting and crashing, and then Rachel pounding on her door. "I called the police," she admitted, "but Rachel begged me to tell them it was a mistake when they arrived. I didn't know what else to do." Rachel flinched at the mention of police. "He would kill me if I got him arrested." The casual way she said those words chilled me to the bone. Not he'd be angry or he'd never forgive me, but he would kill me a statement of fact, not hyperbole. "What happened, Rachel?" I asked gently. She took a shuddering breath. "He's been checking my phone regularly since you visited. But I needed a way to contact you if things got bad, so I bought a prepaid phone and kept it hidden in my tampons box." A bitter smile crossed her face. The one place I knew he'd never look. "What changed tonight?" "He came home drunk and wanted to. You know." She looked away, embarrassed. I said I wasn't feeling well. He didn't believe me, said I was just making excuses. When I still refused, he started searching the bathroom for whatever medications I was hiding. She shook her head disbelievingly. He found the phone and just lost it. Smashed it against the wall, screaming about how I was cheating, planning to leave him, making him look like a fool. She touched her bruised cheek gingerly. This was from the first hit. Then he grabbed my throat and pushed me against the wall. Said if I ever tried to leave him, he'd find me and make me regret it. That's when I need him. You know where. And ran next door while he was doubled over. Rage boiled inside me, but I forced it down. Rachel needed calm support right now, not my anger. We need to document your injuries and file a report. "No police," she insisted. "Not yet. I just want to get away from here." "Hospital first," I said firmly. "Then my apartment. We'll figure out the rest later." She didn't protest, which told me how truly shaken she was. We thanked Mrs. Callahan profusely, and I helped Rachel to my car. As we pulled away, I noticed lights were still on in her house with Gregory. I wondered if he was looking for her, or if he had passed out, or if he was destroying more of their possessions in rage. Part of me hoped he would try to follow us, let him experience a fraction of the fear he'd inflicted on my sister. At the emergency room, the staff took one look at Rachel and immediately prioritized her. The intake nurse asked gentle but direct questions about her injuries. When she asked if Rachel had been assaulted, my sister hesitated. "It's okay," I assured her. "You don't have to protect him anymore." Rachel's voice was small but clear as she answered, "My husband did this." Those 4 words seemed to drain what little energy she had left. She sagged against me, tears streaming silently down her face. The nurse nodded, sympathetically making notes in her chart. "A police officer will want to speak with you," she explained, "and will document your injuries for any future legal proceedings." Rachel tensed. "I don't want to press charges." "You don't have to make that decision right now," the nurse assured her. "But having the documentation gives you options later." Over the next few hours, Rachel was examined, photographed, and treated for her injuries. X-rays confirmed no fractures, but the doctor noted the bruising around her throat with particular concern. "Strangulation is a serious indicator in domestic violence cases," he explained quietly to me while Rachel was changing. "It significantly increases the risk of homicide in future incidents." His words confirmed what I already knew: Rachel wasn't safe as long as Gregory could reach her. A kind-faced police officer took Rachel's statement explaining the process for filing a restraining order. To my relief, Rachel agreed to begin the paperwork. He threatened to kill me, she admitted to the officer. And I believe he would. By dawn, we were finally headed to my apartment in Boston. Rachel slept fitfully in the passenger seat, occasionally whimpering or jerking awake with a startled gasp. Each time, I gently assured her she was safe, that I was there, that Gregory couldn't reach her. For the first week at my apartment, Rachel barely spoke. She slept most of the day, ate little, and jumped at every noise. Her phone buzzed constantly with messages and calls from Gregory, alternating between desperate apologies and vicious threats. Eventually, I convinced her to turn it off completely. Gregory's behavior escalated as expected. He called my phone incessantly until I blocked his number. He contacted our parents, spinning a story about Rachel having a nervous breakdown and needing to come home where he could care for her. When that failed, he began showing up at her workplace, causing such scenes that her boss, Gregory's friend, called to pressure Rachel into working things out with her husband. Each new tactic reinforced Rachel's fear and initially made her question her decision to leave. Maybe I should just go back, she said, one night after her boss threatened to fire her if she didn't return home. I could be more careful, not provoke him. Rachel, look at me, I said, taking her hands. The man threatened to kill you. He was choking you. Do you understand how close you came to not being here at all? She nodded slowly, tears filling her eyes. I'm just so scared, Amanda. He's everywhere. He knows everyone. How do I start over? One day at a time, I told her. And you're not doing it alone. The turning point came when Gregory violated the temporary restraining order by showing up at my apartment building. Security called the police, who arrested him on the spot. Seeing him led away in handcuffs finally convinced Rachel that the legal system could actually protect her. I want to press charges, she told me that night. For everything. The wedding, the bruises, the threats. All of it. It was the first time since leaving Gregory that she sounded like herself, determined, clear-eyed, and ready to fight. A week after Gregory's arrest, our parents arrived unannounced at my apartment door. I had been carefully managing their communications with Rachel, allowing only brief phone calls that I monitored to ensure they wouldn't pressure her into reconciliation. This ambush was exactly what I'd been trying to prevent. We need to see Rachel, my father demanded, attempting to push past me into the apartment. I stood my ground. She's not ready for this. She's our daughter, my mother countered, her voice trembling with what seemed like genuine concern. We've been worried sick. Worried enough to ignore the multiple times I told you Gregory was abusive. Worried enough to pressure her to stay in a marriage that nearly killed her. My father's face reddened. You're being melodramatic, Amanda. Marriages have rough patches. Rough patches, I echoed incredulously. Would you like to see the photos of her injuries? The medical report detailing the bruising around her throat is attempted strangulation, just a rough patch to you? From behind me, Rachel's quiet voice interrupted. Let them in, Amanda. She stood in the hallway wearing an oversized sweater despite the warm spring day, a habit she'd developed to hide the fading bruises on her arms. Her face was still marked with yellowing contusions, but her eyes held a steadiness I hadn't seen in years. Our parents' reactions to Rachel's appearance were telling. My mother gasped, hands flying to her mouth. My father went very still, the color draining from his face. Come sit down, Rachel said with surprising composure. We need to talk. In my small living room, Rachel calmly and methodically recounted the full history of Gregory's abuse. How it had started subtly criticisms disguised as concern, isolating her from friends, checking her phone. How it had escalated after their engagement to controlling her appearance, her job, her schedule. How the slap at the wedding wasn't the first physical abuse, but the first that happened in public. He convinced me that Amanda was jealous of our relationship, she explained. That she was trying to come between us because she was bitter about being alone. That's why I stopped calling her, why I didn't invite her to the wedding. He made me believe my own sister was the enemy. My mother wiped tears from her cheeks. Why didn't you tell us? Would you have believed me? Rachel asked simply. You thought Gregory was perfect. You loved how he encouraged my art, but did you ever notice I stopped painting anything original? I only produced what he approved of. You loved how he provided for me, but did you ever question why I had no access to our bank accounts? You loved how devoted he was, but did you ever wonder why I never went anywhere without him? My father looked shattered. We should have seen it. You didn't want to see it, I said, unable to keep the accusation from my voice. I tried to tell you both something was wrong, and you dismissed me every time. Amanda, Rachel interjected gently. They're here now. That's what matters. Her forgiveness made my own anger seem petty, but I wasn't ready to let our parents off the hook so easily. Rachel nearly died because you two were so invested in her having the perfect marriage to the perfect man that you ignored every warning sign. You don't get to just say sorry and move on from that. My mother reached for my hand, which I reluctantly allowed. You're right, she admitted. We failed you both. We prioritized appearances over Rachel's well-being. We dismissed your concerns because acknowledging them would have meant acknowledging our own failure as parents. My father, never one for emotional displays, cleared his throat several times before speaking. Gregory called us yesterday. He wanted us to convince Rachel to drop the charges, said it was all a misunderstanding. Rachel tensed visibly. What did you tell him? That he should get a good lawyer, my father replied, his voice hardening. And that if he ever came near our daughter again, restraining order or not, he would regret it. It was the first time I'd ever heard my father take such a definitive stand against anything related to Rachel's life choices. The moment marked a seismic shift in our family dynamics. Over the following months, we all began the painful process of healing, not just from Gregory's abuse, but from the dysfunctional patterns that had shaped our family for decades. Rachel started therapy twice weekly, working through both the trauma of her marriage and the deeper issues of seeking validation through compliance. She moved into her own apartment after 3 months with me, a small but significant step toward independence. Our parents entered family therapy with us, uncomfortable sessions where years of resentment and hurt were finally expressed and addressed. My mother cried when I described how it felt to be constantly compared unfavorably to Rachel. My father struggled to articulate why he had been so controlling of Rachel's life choices but so dismissive of mine. I think he said during one particularly difficult session, I saw myself in Amanda's independence. The way I wished I could have stood up to my own father but never did. And I saw your mother in Rachel's desire to please everyone. I thought I was protecting Rachel, but I was really just perpetuating the same patterns from my own childhood. It wasn't an excuse, but it was a beginning of understanding. Gregory attempted to contact Rachel several more times through various channels. He convinced mutual friends to plead his case. He sent letters through his lawyer claiming transformation through anger management classes. When these tactics failed, he tried intimidation again, resulting in additional charges and an extended restraining order. The divorce proceedings were contentious but conclusive. With documented abuse and criminal charges pending, the court ruled heavily in Rachel's favor. She emerged with a settlement that provided financial stability as she rebuilt her life. Through it all, Rachel and I rediscovered the bond we'd had as children. Late-night conversations over wine or early morning coffee chats became our ritual. She helped me understand how Gregory had systematically turned her against me. I helped her recognize manipulation tactics so she would never fall prey to them again. 6 months after leaving Gregory, Rachel picked up a paintbrush for the first time in years. Not to create the commercially viable pieces Gregory had demanded, but abstract expressions of her emotional journey. Bold strokes of red represented anger, dark swirls portrayed fear, and gradually hopeful yellows and healing greens began to appear. I'm painting for myself now, she explained, showing me her latest work. Not for gallery showings or sales or anyone's approval, just because it helps me process everything. The pride I felt watching my sister reclaim her voice both literally and artistically was overwhelming. The Rachel I remembered from childhood was re-emerging, but stronger, wiser, and more authentically herself than ever before. When Gregory's criminal case finally went to court, Rachel testified with steady resolve, looking him in the eye as she detailed his abuse. In the end, he was convicted on multiple counts of domestic violence, violation of restraining orders, and criminal threats. The sentence, 4 years with eligibility for parole after 2, felt simultaneously inadequate and liberating. It's over, Rachel whispered as we left the courthouse. Really over. I squeezed her hand. Not over. Just beginning. 1 year after Rachel fled Gregory's house in the middle of the night, we celebrated with a small dinner party in her new studio apartment. The space was transformed by her artwork, vibrant canvases chronicling her journey from darkness into light. Our parents brought champagne, Taylor made her famous lasagna, and Rachel's new friends from her support group brought dessert. The restraining order against Gregory had become permanent, his appeals denied. Rachel's divorce had been finalized for 6 months, and she had legally reverted to her maiden name, a symbolic reclaiming of her identity. The viral wedding video that had once humiliated her had become improbably a catalyst for change. Rachel had even done an anonymous interview with a domestic violence awareness organization, helping others recognize the warning signs she had missed. To new beginnings, my father toasted, raising his glass. The phrase would have sounded trite coming from anyone else, but from him, a man who had spent the past year in therapy confronting his role in enabling Rachel's abuser, it carried genuine weight. Rachel had found a new job at a small design firm that valued her creativity and independence. She had started teaching weekend art classes for children, finding joy in encouraging their unfiltered self-expression. Slowly, she was rebuilding a life centered around her own choices rather than others' expectations. "I've been thinking about dating again," she confided one evening after everyone had left. We sat on her small balcony, sharing the last of the wine and watching the city lights flicker on. "Really, that's a big step." I tried to keep my tone neutral, hiding my instinctive concern. She smiled, reading me easily. "Don't worry. I'm not jumping into anything. Just coffee dates with clear boundaries. My therapist thinks it's healthy to practice normal social interactions with men again to reprogram my expectations." "How does it feel?" I asked. "Terrifying," she admitted. "But also necessary. I don't want Gregory to have power over my future relationships, and I'm much better at recognizing red flags now." Her growth over the past year had been remarkable. Where once she sought constant approval, she now valued her own judgment. Where she had once silenced herself to keep peace, she now spoke her truth without apology. The journey hadn't been linear. There were still nights. I received panicked calls from nightmares, days when triggers sent her spiraling into anxiety, but the overall trajectory was undeniably upward. My own life had changed too. Supporting Rachel through her recovery had helped me confront lingering wounds from our childhood. I had developed a deeper understanding of my parents forgiving their failures without excusing them. Most surprisingly, I had found a new professional passion in volunteering with domestic violence survivors, using my marketing skills to help raise awareness and funds for support services. "You know what's strange?" Rachel mused, looking out at the skyline. "If that wedding video hadn't gone viral, I might still be with him." "You would have found your way out eventually," I assured her. She shook her head. "I'm not so sure." Public humiliation was the one thing Gregory couldn't control or spin. It cracked his perfect image, made him desperate to reassert control. Without that, he might have kept the abuse private enough that I could keep denying how bad it was getting. "You're stronger than you give yourself credit for." "I am now," she agreed. But back then, I was so thoroughly convinced that his behavior was my fault that I just needed to try harder, be better. She turned to look at me directly. "Having you believe in me when I couldn't believe in myself made all the difference. That's what sisters are for." Rachel reached for my hand. "I'm sorry for shutting you out for so long, for believing him over you. That's how abuse works," I reminded her. "Isolation isn't your fault. Still, thank you for never giving up on me even when I pushed you away." We sat in comfortable silence for several minutes before Rachel spoke again. "I've been thinking about starting a support group specifically for people who left relationships during the engagement or early marriage phase. There's so much shame in admitting you made a mistake, that quickly so much pressure to make it work because you just made these public vows." "That's brilliant, Rachel. There's definitely a need." She nodded thoughtfully. "I want something positive to come from all this. Some meaning from the pain. You're already helping others by sharing your story." "It's not enough," she said with newfound determination. "I want to create real change. Maybe work with premarital counselors to better screen for abuse indicators, or develop resources specifically for newlyweds experiencing abuse." This was the sister I remembered, passionate about helping others, full of creative ideas and the drive to implement them. Gregory had nearly extinguished that light, but it was burning brighter than ever now. As the evening grew cooler, we moved inside, where Rachel showed me her latest painting, a phoenix rising from ashes, rendered in bold oranges and golds against a dark background. "It's beautiful," I told her, truthfully. "It's us," she corrected. "Both of us rising from the ashes of everything that tried to destroy us. Not just Gregory, but the family patterns that made me vulnerable to someone like him in the first place." The wisdom in her words struck me deeply. We had both emerged transformed from this ordeal, Rachel from her abusive marriage, and me from the helplessness of watching someone I loved being harmed while feeling powerless to intervene. A year later, Rachel's support group had grown to 3 locations across the state. She had developed a workshop series for young adults about healthy relationship boundaries. She was dating casually but carefully, never compromising her hard-won independence. The viral wedding video had long since faded from public interest, but its impact on our lives remained profound. We established a tradition of weekend sister retreats every few months, small adventures that strengthened our reconnection. Sometimes we hiked mountain trails, other times we explored new cities or relaxed at quiet beach rentals. During our most recent trip to a lakeside cabin, Rachel surprised me by suggesting we invite our parents for the next one. "I think we're ready," she said. All of us together building something new. Looking back at the dark days after Rachel escaped Gregory's home, I could never have imagined the strength and resilience she would discover within herself. The frightened, bruised woman who had shown up at my door that night had transformed into someone who not only survived, but thrived and helped others do the same. If you're watching this and see yourself or someone you love in my story, please know that escape is possible. Healing is possible. There are people who will believe you, support you, and help you rebuild. The journey isn't easy, but it's worth every difficult step. Drop a comment below if you've ever helped someone leave an abusive relationship, or if you've escaped one yourself. What signs did you miss at first? What finally helped you recognize the abuse? Like and subscribe if you want more stories about overcoming family trauma and rebuilding relationships, and share this video with anyone who might need to hear that they're not alone. Thank you for listening to our story. And remember, sometimes loving someone means standing ready to catch them when they're finally ready to jump from a burning building.